Please make sure you have your copy of Mass of Materials in Chemical Reactions. The goal of this experiment is to look at what happens to the mass of materials in a chemical reaction. We're going to perform an experiment with two different chemical reactions. In one of the reactions, we're going to use baking soda and vinegar. You know what happens when you put those two together. They make a big old mess. So we're going to do it in a bottle with the cap closed to keep the mess inside. The other reaction, we're going to use the same vinegar, and we'll use magnesium metal. The materials that you start with we call the reactants. The things that you end up with we call the products. We're going to put the reactants into bottles, and then the products will stay inside the bottles, and we'll use the balance to find out what happens to the mass of the materials as the chemical reaction progresses. So here's how we set up the experiment. In one bottle you can use a funnel to put some baking soda, maybe 1 or 2 good scoops. So I put the funnel on top and I scoop the baking soda in so it dropped right to the bottom. And then in the other bottle you can take the piece of magnesium and twist it up nice and small so it fits through the top and drops right through to the bottom. So I'll take my magnesium metal, twist it all up, and drop that on in. Now I want to add the vinegar to both bottles, and then I want to put the tops on, but I don't want the reaction to start until after I've weighed the materials. So I took some vinegar and I put it in a test tube, and then I'm going to gently, carefully, without dropping it and spilling it, put the test tube in the bottle, like so. And I'll do the same thing over here. So everything about these two reactions is pretty much the same. They both have vinegar, they both have something that's going to react with vinegar. I'll put the tops on so that everything stays inside and we don't get a mess, because what we're going to do is tip this thing over and let the materials mix together and then react. So the top keeps everything from spilling all over the place. Now, the comparison that we're making here is between two different chemical reactions. They both start with the same number of reactants, 2 reactants. This one starts with 2 reactants, baking soda and vinegar. This one starts with 2 reactants, magnesium and vinegar. 2 reactants, the same thing. But what's different about them is how many products they make. In this one, there are 3 products. There is water, sodium acetate, and carbon dioxide fizz. The fizz will fill up the bottle. In the other reaction, there are 2 products. There's hydrogen gas, and there's magnesium acetate. So this one will fill up also with some gas. So the difference between them is that they both start with the same reactants, number of reactants, but they end with a different number of products. And our question is to find out what happens to the mass of the reaction as that happens. So what we'll do is we'll weigh the materials on the balance first, and then after that we'll tip this over and let the vinegar come out and combine with the baking soda to make the 3 products of the reaction. And then after the reaction is complete, weigh it again. We'll do the same thing with the magnesium and the vinegar. Oops, I forgot to weigh it first. I should have put it on the balance because I need to know what the mass is before it reacts, so that when it's all done, I can see what the mass is after it's done reacting. So what we want to do is first make a prediction. What do you think is going to happen to the mass if you go from 2 things to 3, or if you go from 2 things to 2? Why you think that's going to happen, and what your hypothesis is to explain it. We'll do the experiment after you've come up with some procedures, and then this will be the basis for our first lab report for the semester. So what we'll do next is we'll go back and do some brainstorming and hypothesis generating, and then I'll ask you to write procedures that you'll follow the next time we're in class. You can write the procedures by looking at the picture on the back and by rewatching this video demonstration to give you some ideas.